Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This course is all about creating classic WordPress themes using the Pinegrow web editor or the Pinegrow WordPress plugin. I used to charge for this course, but after hearing the news that the Quickly WordPress page builder was discontinuing development, I decided to make the course freely available. You're probably wondering why I chose to do that. Well, unfortunately, the news left a lot of Quickly customers and WordPress agencies in a pretty bad place. People started looking for alternatives and trying to figure out which page builder they would use going forward. A lot of other people started expressing fear and skepticism about using third-party tools for such a critical part of the website. Of course, the WordPress Gutenberg project came up in a lot of conversations, but people were generally leery about going forward with that direction since block themes are relatively new and they're changing so rapidly. For anyone curious about block themes, I do have a YouTube series all about creating them from start to finish. I'll link that below in the resources section of the video description. This course focuses on creating classic WordPress themes. They're the most popular type of theme, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're straightforward to build and maintain, and you can use them with or without the WordPress block editor. What's even better is that Pinegrow makes creating classic themes simple, with no need to learn PHP. All you need is an understanding of HTML, CSS, and a few core WordPress concepts. As I mentioned, this course focuses solely on themes. But along with the themes, you'll need to create and style some of your site's content. For that, tools like the WordPress block editor are a fantastic choice, especially when you use Pinegrow or other tools to create custom blocks. Custom blocks, whether they're from Pinegrow, ACF, or any other tool, they give you tons of flexibility and they make it simple for authors to manage the content of the website. If you want to learn more about how to create custom WordPress blocks, just check the links in the description below where you'll find some other resources and videos to point you in the right direction. There are also tons of third-party block libraries to choose from. You've probably heard about or used a few of them. The thing people don't seem to realize, though, is that they all have the same kind of dependency on lock-in as page builders. If they get abandoned or if you stop using them, you'll probably need to recreate any pages that rely on them. It's because of that I really advocate for using core WordPress blocks and block patterns whenever possible, and supplementing them with custom blocks as necessary. I have just a few more notes before we get started. First, this course was made for an LMS with lots of short lessons. I'm editing them together for YouTube, but they'll probably still have intros for lessons, and they might reference different modules and lesson numbers. Where necessary, I'll add notes and links in the video description to help clarify anything that might be confusing. Some topics, especially when referencing hybrid and block themes, might have slightly older information. Like I mentioned earlier, block themes are still new and they're constantly evolving. I'll add video intros and notes if I think that a particular lesson needs them. And lastly, the templates and techniques that I show here are just one way of doing things. They may not even be the best way. The goal here is to introduce concepts in a straightforward way without getting into all the complex edge cases. Thank you again for joining me, and I hope you find this course helpful. Now, let's get started. In this course, we're going to build a custom native WordPress starter theme that you can modify however you want for your particular needs. I will tell you, however, that I'm going to keep things pretty broad and high level so we don't get buried in the weeds. This means that I won't cover every option or every use case, but instead I'll demonstrate the concepts and one or two use cases for each. If I tried to make this a comprehensive course, it would end up being 30+ hours and nobody would ever get through it all. Let's start off by talking about who this course is for and what you should know coming into it. I'll start off by saying that you don't have to be a developer to get something out of this or to follow along. That said, you should be familiar with HTML, CSS, and at least be willing to learn what some of the built-in WordPress functions do. Some experience with Pinegrow is also helpful, but definitely not necessary. What I would recommend, however, is that anyone new to Pinegrow should work through the built-in Getting Started tutorial before diving in, since I'm not going to reinvent the wheel by teaching those basic concepts. Most of all, remember that Pinegrow is a visual HTML and CSS editor first and foremost, so this course might be a little bit challenging for you if the thought of working directly with HTML elements and creating CSS rules is daunting. The people who are going to get the most out of this course are those who are already familiar with using advanced WordPress page builders, such as Oxygen or Bricks, and who are looking for a way to take the next step or to reduce your dependency on those third-party tools. If you use Elementor, Beaver Builder, Divi, or other page builders, don't worry. As long as you know HTML and CSS, you'll be just fine. Experienced theme developers or those who have been creating blocks with tools like ACF may also find this course useful. You already know the foundational WordPress concepts, so you'll be able to focus on learning how Pinegrow can help you speed up your workflow and reduce the amount of tedious work that goes into every project. In this course, we're going to create a starter theme with some of the most important things that you'll use on every project. The theme will be extremely basic with minimal styling, and that's on purpose because I want you to be able to take what we're building and make it your own with your design and your features. I'm not going to waste your time teaching you how to style your pages because that'll just take away from the underlying concepts of creating a theme. Besides, there are more than enough tutorials on how to make a pretty web page already, and they all can do it better than I can. As part of the theme, we'll create a basic page template, a post template, an archive template. We'll also cover headers, footers, sidebars, and other reusable template parts. We'll create custom post types and show how to create or modify templates to work with them, and we'll use the WordPress customizer to set site-wide settings. Along the way, we'll also cover topics like conditionals, loops, queries, enqueuing scripts and styles, and we'll even build a custom Gutenberg block or two. What we will not cover, however, are things like frameworks, components, WooCommerce, accessibility, design systems, or basic HTML and CSS concepts. We also aren't going to go into much detail about block themes, but we will touch on them conceptually. Many of the concepts I'm covering apply to both classic themes and block themes, but this course is mainly geared towards classic themes. I'm also not going to create the HTML and CSS for the designs and layout of the theme, since I'm assuming that you're already familiar with how to do all that. The reason I'm doing this is that I want us to focus on the mechanics of how to create the theme. Adding all those details will give you a complete blueprint of how to make a theme my way, but it'll force us to dig into the weeds, which will take away from learning the concepts. After you walk through these steps, you'll have a better idea of what you want to accomplish and how to do it. From there, you can plan for all the things that you want to include in your production theme and tweak it as much as you want. Lastly, I want to make a special note about accessibility. While I wholeheartedly think that it's something that we all need to incorporate into our work, I purposely ignored it in this course in an effort to keep things moving along. Accessibility is something that I take very seriously in my business and for my clients, and there's just no way I can cover both theme creation and accessibility in this introductory course without getting incredibly detailed or missing something important. You aren't going to need much for this course, just a website and a copy of Pinegrow. Pinegrow can run either as a desktop application or as a WordPress plugin, and either one will be fine for this course. If you're working with the WordPress plugin, you'll need a licensed copy since the free version is limited to only creating blocks. For the desktop application, you can use the free trial version or a licensed copy. The important thing is that you'll need the WordPress Builder module and optionally the Interactions add-on. Both of those are included in the WordPress plugin version, by the way, but the desktop application gives you the flexibility to pick and choose the features that you want to license. Pinegrow desktop users will also want a way to run WordPress locally, since you'll be writing your theme files directly to your computer, and you'll want a way to preview those changes without packaging and uploading them to a remote server after each change. Pinegrow officially recommends using the free local WP application, which makes this process incredibly simple, but any local WordPress environment should work. I personally used it with Laragon on Windows and with Laravel Valet on macOS, and the process has been seamless. In this course download section is a single zip file that has the starter project and the finished project that we'll be creating. You don't need to download this file to work along in the course, but you might find it helpful so that you don't have to spend time writing HTML and CSS, and you can get straight to the point. Once you download and extract the file, you'll see two folders in there. One folder is going to be the spinal folder, and this has the project that I finished inside of Pinegrow. The next folder is the starter folder. And this has just the basics that we're going to need to copy and paste into your project to save you some time. If I take a look inside VS Code, you'll see that the starter folder has assets, has a few images in there. We've got some basic CSS, and then we have some HTML files. These are perfect for opening up in a text editor and copying and pasting. You might be tempted to open the starter folder as a Pinegrow project, but I'd rather you didn't do that. Later in the course, when we get started, I'm going to have you create your own folder, and what we'll do is we'll copy the HTML and CSS files from this starter folder into the next one. The reason I want to do that is because I want you to understand what files we're creating, why we're creating them, rather than just starting with half the project already done for you.